and say hi to Candace. Candace, you're my hero, by the way. We have so much to talk about, but we're going to catch up after class.
Oh, James, I can't wait. It's so good to see you. I'm so happy to
You
see
too.
you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Thanks, Skylar. It's all
No
yours.
problem. I feel like that was the best intro, just calling Candace the
Oh,
hero. Like I don't think I need
it's
to say
true.
anything much,
It's
but
true.
but for those of you who do not know Candace Newman, she is the founder and CEO of Live Out Live, who we have been working with and collaborating with for 5+ years now through in-person programming to our online programming. Candace is actually going to be a part of our block party this year as well, which we're excited to have. But we've been working with Live Out Live to help curate the guest professionals who will come in to speak with you all to sort of supplement what you've been getting from your instructors with other industry professionals who are working day to day at this. So, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Candace.
Thanks so much, Skylar. It is always a pleasure to be here to see all the students and just to collaborate with the Grammy Museum. So thank you. It's an honor. Um, As Skylar mentioned, I'm Candace Newman, CEO and founder of Live Out Live. And what Live Out Live is all about is we create opportunities for young people like you guys to have access to the music industry, to the live music industry in particular, which is the industry that I'm extremely passionate about. But today it's not about me. We are excited to bring our special guest today, Miss Jane Pike. Hi, Jane.
Hi,
Everyone,
how are
let's show
you?
Jane some love. I also want to introduce Casey Johnson from our team. Casey will be facilitating the conversation with Jane today, so I'm excited to see both of them have this conversation. But in the meantime, I want to invite you guys to drop any questions as the conversation flows. Drop any questions in the chat because this is your opportunity for Jane to answer your questions, right? We do have some preset questions just to get the conversation kicked off, but Jane is here to share about what she does and how she does it. And you guys are here to learn from her. So this is a mentorship opportunity for you guys. So please drop the questions in the chat. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand it over to Casey and allow her to introduce herself and introduce Jane and carry on the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Candace, and hello, everyone. I work alongside the communication aspect with Candace Newman, and it's a pleasure to have you, Jane. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and share the knowledge of what you do. So I wanted to do a small intro. Jane, obviously, she is a publicist and strategist. She's the founder of JPPR and JPPR Creative Lab. And she's also a part of the Recording Academy as a professional member at the Grammys. So we're really excited to have you today and ready to start out and just share your journey. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey and a little bit of being your role as a publicist and a strategist and where you're from, just to kind of give a little information of who you are.
Sure thing. Yeah. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. And, I always think we all start somewhere and the opportunity, the help I've had along the way, the opportunity for me to pay it forward, even in a small way, I'm just so grateful for that. So thank you for having me. And so I just a few days ago celebrated my 42nd birthday, and I'm coming up on almost 20 years in the, thank you, in the music industry. So it's been a long journey. I want to share, I've had a lot of phases within that journey. So I'll try to keep it brief. I don't want to, 20 years is a lot to share, but I do think it's valuable to share, some of the wins and the challenges along the way because it's something that we definitely all go through and in charting our course. So, my initial plan when I finished college was to go to law school, and that changed. I ended up going after my undergrad to Japan to teach English, and it was there I had very little knowledge in the Japanese language. So, music became even more so my connection point and my opportunity to connect with others. And it was there that I had the sort of epiphany that I wanted to pursue music, full time. And so I ended up from there having an opportunity to move to Australia. Obviously, have the travel bug. I'm originally from Canada. I should mention as well. So when I was there, I got my first experience working with global brands like the Four Seasons Hotel and Lululemon. I've always been very interested in, how brands and artists can relate to communities and different cultures. And so but it was there that I decided I was going to pursue music full time along these endeavors, and I became an electro house DJ. So a very, shocking phone call to my parents. Hey, I'm not going to be going to law school after all. I have a gig this weekend, and they were surprised but supportive. So thank goodness. That was really I'm really glad that that was the case. So I certainly I treated it like I did like I would law school, waking up early in the morning, having my to-do list and so on. But over time, that purely nightlife world wasn't something that I felt like was sustainable long term. So I already started doing, I was using three decks and remixing and pulling in acapellas, doing recording sessions with people, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try and see if audio engineering can be a path. And I pursued studies in that area. Um, and I pursued that for a year. And through that period, actually developed tinnitus. And if anyone has dealt with tinnitus or hyperacusis, hearing difficulties, for somebody who loves music, it's oh my gosh, it was shattering. And I thought I might not be able to continue my work in the music industry. So I went back to Canada, um, feeling pretty defeated and not knowing if I would continue in the industry. And it was there that I got, an entry level job in PR working for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. And it was there, I started in that entry level position, and the way things shaked out, within a couple of months, I was, supporting international campaigns, premieres, and this ballet company is one of the most celebrated companies in the world, and it's been around for over 80 years. So they have this sort of structure within the organization, which was an incredible learning experience, being able to see how they plan out their annual seasons and how they work with creatives from many different aspects, from lighting design to sound to performance and so on. So from there, I had a friend of mine who said, "Hey, Jane, you have this background in the music industry and you've now been working in PR for, at that time, it was 5 years. Would you want to work for this indie label doing marketing and PR?" And very excitedly, I said yes, which opened up some opportunities to be part of, events like South by Southwest and big music conferences. And that sort of allowed my experience in music to blossom in the PR side of things. And I started my business in 2015, sort of on the side of my endeavors, went full time in 2020. And one of the clients that I worked with, I love her dearly. Her name is Rhonda Head. She is an Indigenous vocalist from Opaskwayak Cree Nation in Northern Canada, just a remarkable person. And she's a longtime member of the Academy, and still a close friend, client, mentor. And she gave me my nomination, my first nomination to join the Recording Academy, and I've since joined as a professional member, which I'm so grateful to be a part of that community. And and yeah, so that's a lot about a bit about me. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here. So
No, but that's amazing, sharing that. Thank you so much. I think it kind of goes to show, like how you said, not everyone has a very specific path in how to get into the music industry. And you also being from a different country, being from Canada. I am curious a little bit about that too. I mean, you being from the Canadian music scene and now serving on the Recording Academy, you have and then, obviously traveling to all these different countries, Japan, Australia, you have a very unique global view of the industry. So, what is one thing that you've seen in the Canadian industry that does well regarding maybe like artist support that maybe you wish more artists here in the US understood or took advantage of?
yeah, I think something that's a real, comparison to look at. So I guess Canada has about 40 million people in the entire country. Toronto, Vancouver, all of these, our biggest cities, and California has about 40 million people. So when you look at, the differences just in the terms of population, Canada's just a lot smaller. And one of the reasons I really, and I'm a prairie girl at heart, from a city of less than 1 million people. When you're in those smaller communities, you're able to, see the music scenes are smaller, and your industry associations are smaller. You're able to see the same people a lot more. And if there's something I try to take away from that, I remember when I first went to South by Southwest, I think it was 2017, and I went around that whole weekend, and it was great. I feel like I met 250 people that weekend, getting LinkedIn's and Instagrams, and having, like, these quick interactions with folks. But as time has gone on, I like to try and spend a little bit more time with people and have it be more intentional, and rather than trying to sort of collect, okay, I'm going to meet all these people, build this intentionality around the communities I'm a part of. So if you're interested in songwriting, or if you're interested in production, you're interested in music business, find, there's an amazing, like, women in music chapter in Los Angeles. The Recording Academy. They have so many cool programs like Grammy U and mentorship opportunities. The LA chapter is just phenomenal. And for me, being someone that's not originally from LA, I felt pretty lost when I got here, like, there's people that have lived here their whole lives and have their networks. And for me, the Recording Academy LA chapter was where I found a community of people. I would just simply, we would go to the same place all the time and see each other, and foster that sense of connection, and see each other through wins and challenges. And so finding that community for yourself, and you can always sort of pop into a few before you kind of decide you want to commit and find that connection. But once you do, I recommend sticking with, that community, seeing what you can contribute. How can you show up and share, and participate, and what can you gain from it? And once you, sort of, so the comparison being that small town feel, finding that in the big city, and connecting with these more niche music communities, I think is very helpful for personal and professional growth.
No, for sure. And I think it can be very relatable for some people who are not, like I said, from LA, don't have a network here, coming from a different state or city or country, it
Mhm.
can be that much more harder to navigate in these sort of industries, right?
For sure.
So that's definitely something that I feel like is very useful for people to know. And by the way, guys, if you guys have any questions for Jane, please go ahead and type it into the chat as we go along. We will get to your questions as well after, I ask her some questions, but feel free to write anything, any curiosities you guys may have in the chat as well. But one thing I did want to note, Jane, you being in PR and seeing the power and influence that it is for branding when it comes to emerging creators or artists, people who don't have, let's say, a PR team yet. What
Mhm.
is the single most important thing that an emerging artist or creator should do at the moment once they finish a project to ensure that their story is ready to be told to the world?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I would say too, if you're just getting started, of course, you can always bring in strategists, but sometimes I think people pull in a manager almost too early, before they're, so there's that time when maybe there's a sense of independence, or you're just starting on your journey. And my biggest piece of advice there is to get clear on your story. And what I mean by that, um, let's say you're a songwriter, you have an EP that you've put together, and you think, what was the impetus or the reason I chose to create this? Was it personal or tied to a specific experience? Is there a message that you're wanting to share through this music? Is it tied to a moment in your life? And write that down. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to be able to clearly identify, who you were as a person, and as an artist when you made it. And that can be, it doesn't have to, if you're not into, writing, long, short, long form, I would say, then even something like a mind map, keywords that, connect to your record, or um, also visuals, putting, some photography or different things that will be emblematic of what you created. And from there, you can then use that as a tool to, to get clear about, shaping your visuals, your messaging, and press angles, before, so that you have a really good sense of that when you're ready to present it to the world. Because if you skip that step, essentially you're leaving it open for other people to define your story for you. And some artists go by that sort of, mysterious, they want that, and that's okay. But I recommend, getting clarity around, what your art is and what you want it to say. And then that way you can sort of, plug this into other conversations and really make those meaningful connections. Because the fact is, about 100,000 tracks are uploaded to DSPs every day, like Spotify, Apple Music. So, my goal is to help people have career longevity and success and do what they love. And finding that story and those meaningful connection points is could be the difference between an artist, releasing a song into the world and maybe it gets buried by the other releases that come out, or releasing a song into the world, being clear on your intention, your story, visually how you want to show up and all of that, and having it, really resonate with people and having people remember it and connect to it.
Wow, great answer. No, that's actually really useful advice. I could see how 100,000. I didn't know that. Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty.
I heard that I think at Grammy House this year, and it stuck with me. And because it's a lot, but there's so much. I really like to have an optimistic outlook and say don't let that dishearten folks and artists, because there's so many niches. And if you ever feel frustrated, like okay, is my song or is my project ever going to reach an audience? I always think of, we're in these algorithms in this era where I'll hear of an artist and somebody go, "Oh, have you heard, I'm going to go see this artist at, the Kia Forum, and I've never heard of this artist." And you look all of a sudden and they have their Instagram and it's got 20 million followers and they have 6 million monthly listeners, or you go, okay, there's this huge artist I had no idea about. So there's always, don't be disheartened by that number. You can always find a niche, and really, aiming on that authentic connection of why you made what you made. People really feel that, and it connects with people.
Wow. No, yeah, that definitely I could totally see that there's kind of a market for everything.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share also a major win that recently just happened for you. Your client, you had an artist by the name of Andre Mirapolsky, was featured in the LA Weekly, and whose painting for Elton John was sold at the Elton John's Aid Foundation. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and how you as a publicist, ensured that it translate into long-term business growth? Because I know you recently met Andre about a year ago.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about that as well, and how?
Yeah, for sure. So interestingly enough, so Andrei Mirapolsky, he is in his early 70s, super interesting visual artist. He's in that pop art world. And he got his start, um, yeah, he was doing fashion design and visual art. And actually, Elton John went to his studio called Steps on Melrose, and he actually did painting for Elton John on his sneakers. That was sort of their first interaction, which I thought was really cool. And he ended up designing an outfit for Elton John that he wore on stage in a concert in 1980 in Central Park. That was at the time, one of the most widely televised concert, live performances globally. So it was called the Piano Key Suit. So, it became sort of emblematic of Elton John, pop culture. And so Andre or I guess it was 2 years ago now, created an 8 foot by 10 foot. This thing was like massive, bigger than me. Art piece that depicted Elton John in that suit overlooking Central Park. So just one example of taking that moment and storytelling through time again, like not sort of having a project that you've done and it's like, okay, the project's done, on to the next, but he sort of brought back this story, years later. And he ended up putting it up for auction at the Elton John AIDS Foundation Academy Award viewing party, and it actually sold for 190,000 US, with 100% of the proceeds going to the AIDS Foundation, which I thought was just incredible. Um, so I did have a heads up on this. So, fortunately, I had lead time. I found out. So I actually had said to Andre, we were talking about how he could how he can, so I'll backtrack a sec by saying, I started out as a public relations coordinator and, director, and now I like to use the word sort of architect because it's sort of how you build the story and use these building blocks. So Andre said, I know this is coming up. We have this opportunity. And I actually said to him, I said, how about we approach the AIDS Foundation Oscar viewing party about seeing if we could collaborate in some way? And initially, I was thinking of him doing something like a live, live art, live painting at the event or showcasing the painting. And it was through other, team members and their ultimate team that they decided that they would auction this piece. So great example of collaboration and seeing what's possible there. And so once that was locked in, I thought, okay, it's tied to Oscar week. And Oscar week, there's a ton of press. There's also a ton of competition for, story opportunities. But it had a lot of the right elements and the right timing. So we got this beautiful piece. And it's on my social media. My social media is it's Jane Pike, if you want to check it out. And so, what I would say about, you can have this moment, right? All of a sudden, you're in the news, but the world we live in today, the 24-hour news cycle, and the amount of content being churned out, how do you make sure it's not just this flash in the pan that people forget about the next day? So, my recommendation is, if you yourself have a press feature or if you're working with an artist, if you're on the business side and there's an artist you work with that gets a press feature, or you're working for a festival that gets a press feature, something like that, the placement itself is just a starting point. So you're going to turn that placement into an asset that you can use along your career arc. So um, first of all, I recommend packaging it, in a way that it can work best for you. So creating a strong and clean visuals that align with your branding and the publication's branding that you can, present it through your socials. You can pull strong quotes and make those into graphics that can, again, be shared through your socials, your email campaigns, and make sure it lives across your channels and aligns with your brand. And then it's in your website, it's in your bio, any artist decks, any potential sponsorship decks, anywhere that credibility matters. You want to have this be a part of your long-term narrative, featured in, and then being able to, and then just sort of within your bio. It's this sort of mark of cachet or credibility that will help you as you go to the next level and the next level and create that long-term career stability and growth. And also, amplifying it through pace, like a boost on social media or using it in a digital ad, using it as a touch point if you're, want to re-engage an industry contact that you haven't, oh, I wanted to share this with you, or, re-engaging maybe an agent that you might have reached out to but didn't hear back from in the past. Seeing where you can leverage it and asking, where is there, what can this lead to? And I like to say, like, a great placement isn't the finish line, it's a tool to use to unlock the next level in your career.
Okay, okay. Oh, these are really helpful tips. We got some questions over here. Christopher B, did you wanna ask her your question? Christopher? Okay. We'll get back to you
Yeah,
then.
sorry, I was trying to unmute.
Okay. Yeah,
Hey,
go ahead.
Christopher.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, so I'm currently an intern at a radio station in Atlanta, and I've come to terms that I would like to specialize in broadcasting and live entertainment marketing. So I kind of want to be behind the scenes and in front of the camera as well, but I just want to know what advice could you give me as far as live entertainment marketing? Because the people that I'm asking, some of the responses that I'm getting is that they new people instead of, working, to find ways to do it themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, so live entertainment marketing. First of all, radio, I love radio. And there's some of this opinion that, radio is di a dying art form, but I believe, and this is they've said this so many times across different mediums that, you know, it's really just evolving, you know. So if you have that desire to be a voice on screen or on the mic, podcasting, content creation, you know, and being in that live entertainment space, reporting on if you know the music industry, the live entertainment space, there are going to be opportunities that are available to you. I think you know, with that interest, finding the music festivals, large scale events in your own community, finding out who's behind the marketing for those particular organizations. You know, you mentioned you're doing some internship now, asking if there's any way that you can support or get involved. I remember when I very first started out, I was doing some work with my hometown is Winnipeg in Canada, the Winnipeg International Folk Festival, Winnipeg Jazz Festival, and I would go and, you know, do some volunteering and just I was working for or volunteering for a radio station for a local university and just saying, hey, I would love to do an artist interview, and just sort of finding those opportunities to build your experience and your network, and also looking for industry associations. So if you're in Atlanta, looking for, I know there's like broadcasters associations, sort of, you know, Google or throw it into ChatGPT. You know, I'm looking for opportunities to connect with other live entertainment broadcasters in Atlanta, and do some research there and see, you know, I'm sure they'll have events where you can connect. Also, things like this, not really, you know, of course, connecting with your local community, but in our digital age, there's so many opportunities to connect. So, you know, keep looking for those opportunities and building your network. And yeah, I'm excited for you. It's a great space to be in.
Great, thank you so much. So building those connections and building relationships will help me get to the next level for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Christopher. We're gonna move on now to Jordan Williams. Jordan.
Hello, how are y'all today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just want to ask that I'm currently a law student, but I also have a hidden passion for PR and digital marketing and a little bit of social media. But even though they're separate departments, do you ever see them intersect in entertainment? And if so, how could I use my skills in PR, digital marketing, content creation to really advance myself in entertainment law specifically?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. This is so awesome. So first of all, congratulations. I love the journey that you're on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is amazing. So it's really great because these all of these, you know, passions that you have, there's so much intersection. So one good example is there's a former director of marketing of a label that I worked with who was, you know, she has her law degree, studied law and practiced law for a time, decided she that wasn't her forever and wanted to move into the music industry. And the skills she learned in law were so helpful in, you know, in terms of her interpersonal relationships, her ability to communicate and strategize. And it really, a law degree is going to set you up for an incredible amount of success. So, so that's great. You know, having that or having the studies that you're pursuing now is only going to benefit you. And so, in terms of using your skills in PR and digital marketing to advance yourself, so you, as an entertainment lawyer, are become your own personal brand, you know, or whether you're part of an agency or a firm per se, or whether you're out as an independent. I remember meeting a phenomenal entertainment lawyer at Grammy Week, Erica Baker, and she was doing. She's got just really cool content out there about being an entertainment lawyer in the industry. There's articles about her that she's actually, you know, built those opportunities on her own. She's not working with a publicist, so she's using her natural ability for, you know, building her visual world, her content, her ability to see stories and build narratives. She's using that ability to propel and further herself in the world of entertainment law, which I thought was really cool.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, Norelisa Nacimiento. Did I say it
Yeah,
right?
that was perfect actually. Hi. Thank you so much for joining our class. I love a guest speaker. And you've shared so much insightful information. Your career has been so admirable. And I love the fact that you were a DJ. I work at Insomniac events.
Amazing.
Um, so I really connect with you on that. And on top of working at Insomniac, I am a Grammy U member, enrolled in this class, obviously, and I've applied for the Latin Grammys Women in Entertainment mentorship program, for example, because I'm really trying to make sure that, living in LA, being part of the LA chapter, that I expand and network as much as I can.
Mhm.
And my question for you is, do you have any networking tips? And how did you navigate networking when you first moved to LA? Because I'm not from here either. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think, networking tips. So one way I kind of had this, this was in my 20s, but I think it comes from my dad. He's like a very gregarious, outgoing guy, and he would always say, like, I'd say, "How did you meet that person?" And he said, I just went into a room and I said, who's the person in the room that just looks like they interest me the most? For whatever reason. Maybe it's their style or their energy, or you just feel like, you've got for some reason, maybe it's the divine connection that's coming through, but you think, hey, that's a person that I want to meet. And I remember early on thinking, what do I talk to them about? We're here, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know them. Or maybe you go to, like, I've been to events solo, of course, because you're getting invite, no plus ones. Okay, here you are. Right. So I always, a good way is just saying, hi, Nora Lisa, or if hi, I don't think we've met, and just
Mm-hmm.
and then, okay, hi, and then your conversation kind of starts. And I really love just taking a genuine interest in people. Don't worry so much about what you want to say about yourself, but listening to people's stories. I always say there could be an Academy Award winning film about every person in this world's life because we all have such a rich life experience, the sorrows and the joys and everything in between. So, giving that person space to share, who they are and what they do, and really listening with intention, um, is gonna just create a nice environment, for the two of you to connect and share that moment. And I will say if there's a moment when you've been talking for a while. I've had a friend that said this because I go to a lot of events, so I feel at this stage in my 40s pretty comfortable navigating a room. But a friend of mine said to me, "Hey, like, how how do you exit a conversation in a way that's not rude if you think, oh God, okay, I've been here, it's 20 minutes or it's been 40 minutes and there's some people I want to kind of meet more people, or don't be afraid to say, at some point, listen, I'd love to stay in touch. It was really nice meeting you. Or, I've got to, if you see your friend across the room, I've got to go say hello to somebody. It was super nice meeting you. I'd love to, and don't be afraid to ask to connect on LinkedIn, connect on Instagram, because I find almost everyone at those networking, we're all there to connect, right? So if you're going to an event like that, you want to build your network, and don't be afraid to keep the conversation as long or short as works. But the most important thing, don't be afraid to go up and say hello. And I love hi, I'm Jane. I don't think we've met, because it's just kind of, it's just like it's like a little wave, and if the person's got to go, or they're meeting friends, they'll say, oh, you know what, I'm actually on my way out, but take care, right? But you really don't have anything to lose, and then just having that genuine interest in in someone's story. And yeah, so you're saying also in your question here, further than just the EDM industry, I think, yeah, if there are other genres that you're interested in, looking for opportunities like I love going to the live music space. It's just, we're there. We can, if you want to engage, you can engage. If you don't feel comfortable, you can enjoy the music, or if there's nobody that, it's kind of this really nice atmosphere where you can chit chat, you can meet people, you can also feel comfortable to just focus on the music and enjoy. So finding, something that you have an interest in, and some of those iconic venues, like, like the Troubadour, or, looking around LA, and I live in LA too, so hit me up and I can tell you sort of some of the spots I found really welcoming, even like smaller rooms like the Hotel Cafe, or I know like Delilah, the restaurant has a really cool jazz singers in there. There's all these little Andes in West Hollywood right next to Troubadour, all these hidden gems, you know? So ask around and yeah, don't be afraid to say as well too, like when I was new to LA, I'm like, I am new and I don't feel at home yet. Where can I go? And how can I, asking those questions, it's a vulnerable thing to say, but people can relate to it. So don't be afraid to ask, you know?
Those are really good points, Jane. I mean, if I could even use us as an example. I mean,
Yeah.
I met Jane. I'm part of a nonprofit as well at it's called Assistance League of Los Angeles, and Jane is a part of it as well. So I met her through another friend. We were just sitting at the same table, and I was introduced to her. But definitely even being a part of different things that resonate with you, that you're passionate about. I'm very passionate about philanthropy. So, that's something that maybe you guys could look into, things that you find where maybe, someone is very like-minded, and you'll start to attract people that are similar to you, I feel like,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, for sure. Layla? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what's it?
Oh, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I'm planning to go to community college in the fall and take music business. I'm not exactly sure like what part of music business. I think maybe marketing. I want to study, but uh, I feel to me networking and like finding out like what spots to go to and how to start out. Like I know like go to school and then like internships, but I don't know how else to do stuff like that. So I was wondering if you have any tips on how to like start out or like you were saying like certain places around LA.
Yeah. Are you based in LA as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, and then, I'm a bit, I always say the more the merrier. So if you're feeling like a little lost when there's something like a women in music event or any type, let me know. And
Mhm.
I love building community and sending invites to people. So let me be a person that you can lean on, you know what I mean? If you want to
Okay.
get hooked up and connected and feel connected, because it's one thing to go to events and it's another thing to feel connected at events, right? I've been in rooms where I'm like, I don't really feel like comfortable here or like I'm really a part of it. But I love you welcoming people and bringing people in. So, but I would say, look for so if you're saying you're planning to study music business at the in college this fall, pay attention to what brings you joy. Are there visual aspects of a record, or are there certain genres, are there certain aspects of the industry where you read about it and you go, this is why I love it, and pay
Mhm.
attention to those things. And like for me, I like the visual side of it. I've always just been so into fashion. And so for me, when I work with like stylists, videographers, creative directors, it just like lights me up inside. Like knowing that the Met Gala is coming up. I said to my daughter this morning, I'm like, I could cry knowing that the Met Gala is, hours away. I don't know why I'm like that, but it's just a part of me, right? So for me, like connecting with stylists, and it's just something I find so joyful and fun. So whatever it is that really lights you up inside, like lean into that and find, there's always going to be other people who get sort of, lit up about that too. And that's a really natural connection point where you can say, oh, or a certain type of music or an artist that you find you're really passionate about. And that can be a really great connection point. Also going back to what I was chatting about before with the networking event, hi, I'm Layla. I don't think we've met. And, what brought you here tonight, and giving people a chance to share why, because don't forget, everyone's there hoping to connect. So you're not alone in that. And everybody starts somewhere. Mick Jagger had his first show where he went up to the microphone and had never done it before. And, so we all start somewhere. So don't ever feel that you're behind. You're right on time. And just every little small step, every event you go to, every article you read and things like that, it really adds up over time. Starting it was a scary decision for me to leave. My family's very conservative, and doing anything in the arts was, they were like, oh my God, what's she going to be okay? So,
Yeah.
but over time, you retain these experiences and you grow and you're exactly where you meant to be on your journey. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
We dropped also Jane's Instagram in the chat. So if you guys feel free to reach out to her if you guys have any other questions or any advice that you may want from her. She has a lot of knowledge and insight, so definitely is helpful. Tanya?
Hey everyone, marketing director with Live Out Live here. So nice to see everybody. Jane, I have a question. I want to pick your brain a little bit on this. You mentioned that you have your own like company, right? With
Yes. Yeah.
PR. I honestly think that sometimes, and this is just a personal take, and I want to hear what you think about this. I think marketing gets so much hype, but PR is like this, like sometimes it's so much noise with marketing, which is amazing. I mean, I'm in marketing, right? But I think PR is just as important, and I love that that you're like specialized in that. And so I wanted to hear your take on like your journey and how you decided that you knew you were going to break off and like start your own thing. Because I think oftentimes we're in a world where everyone wants to start their own thing, no matter what department they're in. We're just kind of in a world where we all want to be entrepreneurs, right? But there's a lot of really great like assets to staying with a company sometimes and like knowing when to
Totally.
break off. And I'm sure that you had, the resources that you needed to make that decision. And often it can be really scary. So I'd love to hear like how you knew you were prepared.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's such a great question. And wow, has entrepreneurship been a journey? It is such a challenge. It's so rewarding. There's the flexibility. There's also ways you're so tied to your work all the time. It's, oh my God, I could go on about this for about an hour. But okay, so when did I know? Okay, so I started doing I took on, sort of gigs, small projects at first. I was working for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet on a project connected to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. And an artist, Vince Fontaine, he reached out to me and asked, "Hey, Jane, I've seen you doing work with." At the time, I was doing a lot of work with Indigenous communities, and he said he had this record that he wanted to had a lot of beautiful indigenous philosophies in it. He said, I wonder if you could help me with the PR for this record. And I loved what he was creating. And I said, and I checked with my team, and they're like, yeah, totally, you can, feel free to do this. And so I started taking on projects over time. And as long as you're in an environment that is okay with that, and um, I would say, go for it and taking on rather than just quitting your job, abandoning ship, and jumping and starting your new thing, because there is such a learning curve with entrepreneurship, from accounting to invoicing to time management to client management to getting yourself paid. Oh my God, like I've had to really learn how to structure agreements and structure my relationships with clients and expectations on both sides. And there's been a lot of frustrations, a lot of learnings, and a few years in, I'm actually working on now. I'm calling it JPBR 2.0, which is sort of restructuring my business in a way that is really clearly defined. So the client, when they come in, I'm sort of I used to really tailor things individually to each client, and it wasn't that scalable. But now I feel like I have some things that I know really move the needle for artists. So if they come to me, I say, this is what I can offer. These are the terms. This is the payment structure. And people can choose whether they want to engage or not, because I'm able to then, provide a service to more artists, move the needle for them, and not get so bogged down in the minutia of the day to day the way I would when I first started. And I tried to, at that point, it was sort of helping them with brand identity. It's almost like PA, or it like blended into a personal assistant at times. It blended into content creation. It blended into, and I sort of tried to really define what it is that I'm good at and what I want to help people. And my real goal, especially as an entrepreneur myself, is I want people to have sustainable long-term growth in their careers. I don't want them to be an artist that is struggling to pay their rent. It's like, how do we build your revenue streams? Like that's something, and another thing that I'm really passionate about doing is helping artists, maximize their revenue streams. But yeah, but going back to the entrepreneurship side, I would recommend, if it's something that, any of you are interested in doing, if you do have a job and you're thinking, oh, should I start my own business? There's no harm in, you can have a, as long as your employer is okay with it, having a small business and taking on one client, and experimenting with that. And um, there's also tax write-offs and things that you can enjoy by being a business owner. So on that standpoint, it's great. And there's so many opportunities for learning around like on entrepreneurships, thing, guides that can support you, communities like entrepreneurships associations and so on to help you get started. And you don't need to, open a global conglomerate overnight. You can take a step, take on a project, see how it goes, and definitely, if you can, work with a mentor and somebody who can help you identify, what it is that your business is. What is your revenue streams and your expenses look like? What about your accounting, your invoicing? Having someone who is more experienced early on, helping you identify that is going to save you so much hardship. so, so definitely look to, people that you trust and are in your network. And, if anybody's interested, I'm definitely, my door's open if anybody wants to reach out to me, and definitely recommend getting that insight from somebody who's been through it.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, great question, Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
You actually made a really good point, Jane, where you talked about sustainability in long term for an artist's career or a creator's career. Can you talk a little bit more about that too as well? Like what is something that helps, someone who is wanting to start out as a songwriter or, being an independent artist or creator, what's something that creates that long-term business, you know, that longevity that you spoke about?
Yeah. So what's going to create from in terms of from on the PR side or okay, yeah. So I would say so on the PR side, create yeah, so we're talking about long-term development. So I here's an example that I like to talk about. Um there's an artist that I worked with, a career artist that had, done 8 European tours, done, really had seasoned. And something I really learned from him was regarding the timing of his, and I was still a, newer publicist at the time I started working with him. So, but he would come to me and say, okay, Jane, we've got festival season and my agent's going to start, pitching for my tour at this time of year. So can we create a schedule where the press about me is going live right before the festival bookers are making their decisions? Or can we have it go live right before my agent is reaching out to different venues, or they're wanting to maybe have me support on a tour, all these things we want, and because I have seen instances where it's been a differentiator. Also, I've worked with some actors that have done that. They've said, okay, Jane, I don't work as much with actors, but I have a lot of actors who are also musicians that kind of work in both. And so they'll say, okay, hey, I'm gonna be I'm auditioning and I'm pinned for this audition. I'm like in my third callback. And they'd be like, can we get something up this week? And it depends, right? But in a lot of cases, it can be possible. So using it really strategically to keep your story top of mind. When decision makers in the industry are looking at, you or your artist, you being in, having something really recent and fresh in a publication that really articulates your story in a clear way can be very powerful. So that's one example.
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, definitely kind of what you said earlier too, the market could be a bit, saturated and a lot of new artists or people who are wanting to, you know, basically be in the industry. But what are some ways that you think would be helpful for to kind of set them apart, from maybe, you know, other artists? How could they, I know you spoke earlier about how they can create a vision board or
Yeah.
potentially as well, kind of knowing the idea that they want in their mind or clear vision of who they are. But what are some other things that you think can set apart artists nowadays or creators?
Okay, okay, awesome, awesome question. So I think I talked a lot about sort of the story and the meaning behind it. But something like I get asked that question a lot. What do you think is the difference between a record that is explosive and potential? There's a lot of factors, right? But what are some common differences I'll see between you know releases that do really well and releases that um, come out and they get some they might get a few listens, and then they kind of go, and they fade away, and the artist is left thinking like, what happened? And there's of course a ton of factors, but one thing that I see when the track really explodes and hits that next level, there's often a strong like visual world built around the artist and the music itself. I've been in some rooms before with whether it was media or um, festival bookers, and they go, "Oh, hey, yeah, I like this song. This can work. This could be something." And then they'll go to an artist's, website, social media, and go, "I don't know if they're quite ready." So it could be, again, looking at the visual identity around the world, like the photography. Working with a creative director is so powerful. And I know folks, if anybody is interested, like feel free to hit me up. There are people that work at all price ranges. There's definitely super interesting emerging creative directors, very established, and everything in between. But if you're stuck, or if your client is stuck, I've definitely leaned on creative directors to say, hey, my client is really struggling with what to wear at their photo shoot. Can we bring in a stylist? Can we bring in a creative director to help build the visual concept around the record? I love talking about fonts. Like, what kind of typography can be used. I think too, like something that one very simple but powerful example is the Charlie XCX Brat album.
Oh
It was
yeah.
hard to not like you almost couldn't ignore, that shade of green and that typography that she used. Whether you love I'm a fan, but if you love Charlie XCX or not, I'm pretty sure you may be aware of that album because she was so true to her branding, the color, the typography. It was everywhere that summer. So finding that clarity around the visuals that are in your, connected to your album, connected to your artistry, identifying a few key colors, creating a logo for your project, and stick with it for a period of time, and or whether there's typography on your website. Another example I'll use is I'll see artists that do, and I've worked in the studio too, and I'm like a huge audio nerd, like I can listen to, I'll be like, oh, this is a different preamplifier. This is really, I love this analog synth, so I'm like this too. But sometimes people will go and do, 20 mix downs of this track just looking to get the hi-hats like a little brighter. Meanwhile, they create their graphic in 15 minutes and throw it out there, and so I'm like, I like to encourage people to give, the similar care and attention to the assets that are visual representations of how they're sharing their work and how they show up in the world.
Are you saying that that's also a way to kind of build that credibility behind their
Um,
art?
yeah, so credibility and also just like a differentiator, So how do if there's an artist, you know, it's almost think of it like packaging, if there's something that's kind of okay, I've seen that before, interesting, like a person staring at the camera, photo, but if there's something where, oh wow, you look over there, the website, the social, it all kind of has this cohesive theme and it's thought out, it's tied to you know, the visual world makes sense in terms of the music, and there's a story, and it's kind of, I like to call it world building. You're creating this, almost think of it like a Roblox game or something. You're going in there and boom, you're there with that artist experiencing that music and you're in their world. So just that cohesion can, and vision can be a big differentiator. And if that's something that you're struggling with or you're not sure how to create, You hit me up and I can send you like a few examples of artists that I think are doing it really well. And I think if you start to look for it, you might notice online and be like, hey, this artist has like I could see the world that they've built, and I think that can really help to set an artist apart.
Destiny, I see your hand up. Did you want to ask something? Okay.
Hi. Thank you everyone for being here. I know we're about to wrap up the session for today. So just real quick, because you started to get on a roll about things that were like that resonate very deeply with me. So I didn't want to interrupt you. But real quick, I do want to ask in regards to mentorship, because I
Hmm.
think this is gonna be the next key component to me having some sort of breakthrough as an independent artist and creative and entertainer and whatnot, and like a jack of all trades and a master of none. So my my question is, when it comes to mentorship, what do what should I be what do I want from a mentor? Like, what do I need to be asking, or even long story short, I reached out to a lady that works at UTA, my dream agency, gave her the sob story in a LinkedIn message. I was like, at this point, this is just a cry for help. I don't even know how to make this professional. Please help me, God. I just need some
Yeah.
sort of direction. And by the grace of God, she responded, invited me to her office, and we had a chat. Cool. She gave me a few things, like a little homework to go home with, and I have not talked to her since. And I'm like, I can't be mad at her for not talking to me because I don't know what I'm even asking of her.
Yeah, I think Michael Rapino, he's the head of Live Nation, Thunder Bay boy from Canada. I saw him give a keynote once, and he um shared that he said, he's like, my door's always open, and he goes, but when people come to see him, he gives them this sort of sheet. It's like, fill this out, like it's kind of like a reflection on your goals and creating like, where do you, if all your dreams came true 5 years from now, what would your life look like, professionally or however, personally, professionally, you can do both. And then, so what needs to happen within a year in order to get there? And then going back and sort of building a work back schedule month by month, and also making sure you build in breaks for yourself, because we need that sustainability for us, right? But what are the things that we can, and then break it down into months, break it down into weeks. And then, so in some cases, it depends on the mentor. Um, Maybe ask the person if they're willing. Would you be willing to have like even like 30 minutes with me once a month? Or, because people, especially people operating at a high level, we're all, and like the digital world, we're all so busy. It doesn't matter if you're working a minimum wage job or you're a CEO, you're busy, So it's finding like, and find, saying, hey, can I have a bit of moment of your time to check in, and if there's things that you want to, and come prepared and focused to those sessions, and see, the things you want to talk about. But putting on paper what your goals are, and 5 year, 1 year, and then these over time. Like, sometimes when I worked with my mentors, sometimes I'd hit them up and be like, hey, I have this conversation about salary negotiation, or pricing, or I'm just like, I'm so lost of what to do here. And then, so it'll be like kind of situation based. Could we, like, any chance you have 15 minutes for a little chat? Whereas in some cases it's more formal, and a mentor can be sort of almost like an accountability partner, to say, okay, this is where I want to be 5 years from now. This is my year goal. And if you talk to them every other week for even half an hour check-in, it's like, okay, how's it going on your goals? What have you, and then almost knowing that you have to kind of, you're going to be checking in with your mentor, might be the thing that's going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to stay clear and focused. It's so easy to get pulled in all these directions with social media and everything trying to grab our attention in this day and age. So having a plan and sticking to a plan for a period of time, and using a mentor to support that process, I think could be really helpful. That's my, yeah, just sort of, I hope I answered your question, but
Oh, you're on mute, but I think you said thank you. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jane. Ran out of time. But I do want to say, everyone in the class, that if you get a chance, we put in the chat feedback survey. So we'd love to hear from all the students or everyone. We're always trying to improve at Live Out Live. So please, if you have a couple minutes, doesn't take long, to fill out the feedback survey. But I'd like to thank you again, Jane, for your time. And like I said, we put her Instagram in the chat, so
Great.
feel free
And
to.
I just put my email and my business and personal IG. I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to keep in touch. Hit me up if you are in LA and want to get more connected in the community. I'd love to send you invites to things and you know keep going, get through those challenges. It's a win or a learn. So I'm super excited for all of you, and it was such a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone, I think if we can learn anything from Jane is that, uh, your journey is specific to you, and it comes with challenges, and it comes with, maybe something that you thought you were going to start out with, and then ended up in a different, direction. But maybe you can find that intersectionality, with your interest or your passions, being an attorney or, being involved in music or art or fashion. So don't think it's just a one lane thing. So, thanks, Jane, for sharing those words, and very happy that you came and spoke to
Yeah,
us.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Casey. And thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
So, pass it out to Skylar or Candace, whoever.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you, Candice, for helping to put this together. I'll let you end with any final words you may have.
That was wonderful. I don't have any final words. I just want to reiterate to feel free to fill out that feedback survey that we dropped in the chat. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And thanks so much, Skylar. I really appreciate it once again.
Absolutely. See you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.